What's going on, everybody? We're moving on with Chapter 8. Today we're talking about 8.5 angles of depression or angles of elevation. Okay, do now real quick. This is a review from last lesson 8.4 where we did inverse trig. Okay, label the side lengths as opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Decide which ratio you're going to use, sine, cosine, or tangent, and then solve for theta. So if this angle is our theta, that means 249 is going to be our opposite side. That means 335 is going to be our adjacent side, which means that if I change it to color, because the slide is blue, so I can't really use blue. If I have opposite and adjacent, that means I'm going to use tangent. So I'm going to set it up. Tangent theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 249. Over adjacent, which is 335, which means that I'm going to go in and use a calculator to solve this, right? The opposite of tangent is going to mean that we're going to use theta is equal to inverse tangent of 241 divided by 335. All right, going to type that into a calculator. So again, you can't see me working on the calculator, but we're going to go inverse tangent. We're going to put 241 divided by 335. All right, and you end up getting that theta, or the angle, this angle theta is equal to 35. It comes out to 0.73, which rounds out to 0.7, right? So theta equals 35.7 degrees. Okay, that's just a review of what we did last class. Okay, this class, vocab. Okay, there's really only these two vocab words. The angle of elevation is the angle from a horizontal. Usually it's something like the ground or a line of sight upward to an object, right? Elevation means going up, right? You elevate in an elevator, you go up. So the angle of elevation is when you're looking up, right? That's going up, the angle of elevation. Whereas the angle of depression is just the angle from a horizontal downward to an object, right? So if the horizontal in this case is the line of sight of this person, has to look down at a dog, has to look up to see a plane. So looking up, that creates an angle of elevation. Looking down, it creates an angle of depression. Okay, this lesson is essentially just a way to incorporate trig ratios into real world examples. So technically today, we're not really learning anything new. We're just applying it to more real life examples rather than just random triangles, because in the end, you do end up seeing a lot of triangles everywhere. Okay. So this lesson is going to be pretty short. We'll just have two examples, one example with an angle of elevation and one example with an angle of depression, right? We're just going to use trig ratios to solve here, okay? So our first example, Leah wants to see a castle in an amusement park. She sights the top of the castle at an angle of elevation of 38 degrees, which we see there, right? She's looking up at an angle of 38 degrees to see the top of the castle. She knows that the castle is 190 feet tall. Leah herself is 5.5 feet tall. How far is she from the castle to the nearest foot? So remember, right, this point A is where Leah's head is. That's where she's looking. She herself is 5.5 feet tall, which means that her the actual horizontal is not 190. It's actually 190 minus 5.5. So if we imagine this as a triangle, let's use a different color, right? If we see this triangle right here, we're looking for x. This side length here is actually not 190, but it's going to be 190 minus 5.5, which ends up being 184.5. So that means this side length over here is actually 184.5, right? And we're looking for x. The angle is still 38. Okay, so that means this side, I realize that the pink is not a great color. This side length is your opposite, right? The side length that we're trying to find is the adjacent. So that means we're going to set up our equation. We have our angle 38. We have opposite. We have adjacent. We're going to use tangent. All right, so we use tangent of the angle, which is 38, is equal to opposite, which is 184.5. over adjacent, which is what we're looking for, which is x. Okay, so that means x is on bottom. Remember, if x is on bottom, that's our cue to flip and divide. So we're going to get x is equal to 184.5 divided by tangent 38. All right, you got to plug that into a calculator. which again, I'm working on a personal calculator here in my hand. You can't see that in the video, but 184.5 divided by tangent 38 gives us 236.149, and we round that. That means that Leah is standing 236.1 feet away from the castle. Okay, once again, we already know this. We're just incorporating our vocab words of angle of elevation and angle of depression. Okay, so our next example is going to be an angle of depression. A search and rescue team is airlifting people from the scene of a boating accident when they observe another person in need of help. If the angle of depression to this person is 42 degrees and the helicopter is 18 feet above the water, what is the horizontal distance from the rescuer to this person to the nearest foot? Okay, so once again, notice, okay, we're looking down. So this here is our angle of depression, which is 42. Notice this angle is not part of our triangle that we're using though, okay? This angle is not part of our triangle. So that means we need to figure out what the rest of the angle is, okay? We need to find out what this angle is because this is the angle that's actually in our triangle. We know that this creates a 90 degrees, so we do 90 minus 42, which ends up giving you 48. So you know that this angle here is 48 degrees. Okay, now we can label our side lengths. X is definitely our opposite. Okay, 18 is our adjacent. So once again, we're going to use tangent one more time. All right, so we set up our equation tangent of the angle, which in this case is 48, is equal to opposite, which is X, over adjacent, which is 18. 18's on bottom this time, X is on top, which means that we multiply both sides. Those cancel, and we get X is equal to 18, that's an 8. 18 times tangent 48. And again, you just plug that into your calculator. Once again, you cannot see me working, but I'm doing 18 times tangent 48, which ends up giving you 19.99. All right, so X is equal to 19.99, which would then round up to 20, right? So that means that the helicopter, the horizontal distance away from our drowning victim over here is going to be 20 feet. And that is it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, really quick, really short lesson, just a way to incorporate our vocab and to think about using trig ratios in a more real world context rather than just having random triangles. Okay, have a great day. Go Mustangs.